All right, so I want to start this video by saying very clearly that everything I'm about to sort of say, advocate, and analyze is my opinion. I feel like it's a pretty good informed opinion, and I feel like it's something we should all talk about more in the Rainbow Six scene and in esports generally. But it's sort of gotten to a point now where I feel that if there's those of us who don't advocate for it, it won't become a conversation anytime soon. And by advocate for it, I mean for the standards of esporting staff and players to rise up. You see games like League of Legends, Dota, etc., and the organizations and the support staff that are involved in that, in those teams and in those organizations, are high-level players and high-level professional support staff who know what they're doing, are trained in what they're doing, and have the necessary skills, experience, professional education, whatever it might be that they need to do their job, they've got it. And I think in Rainbow Six, now that we're getting bigger and bigger and there's a lot more money coming through, prize money skyrocketing, organizations really interested in pro league teams, salaries, all over the world, and we've got these teams being paid to do full-time Siege. And I suppose that's everyone's dream, and whose dream shouldn't it be? But I guess from my perspective, and something that I guess is the impetus for me making this video now, is that over the past month, 2, 3, 6, I'm noticing a bunch of these, we're looking for a coach, or we're looking for an analyst, pro league teams around the world looking for support staff, and as they should. Support staff are only now being recognized to be extremely important in Rainbow Six, and of course, other bigger games have already worked this out, but we're finally coming to that point where we're like, oh yeah, of course, support staff, they actually support, and it really assists us to get that critical edge. And I'm seeing these posts, and I'm seeing a lot of people apply for them that I wonder, okay, this is good. You should always throw your name out there. You never know, what opportunity you're going to get. And then I have a lot of people who message me for analyst jobs particularly, who go, hey Jess, I'm applying for this analyst position. I won't tell you where so that you don't have any wayward opinions and stuff like that, but can you help me with my application? Sure. I am a big advocate for other members of the esports community, helping other people learn, get to know a position, get to know how to do things. I love learning from other people and watching how they do things. So I feel like it's really important that we motivate each other in the scene. And then when I sort of ask, oh, okay, you're applying for an analyst position, send me through one of your analyst pieces or your Excel sheet, a basic level Excel sheet. And they go, what do you mean by an Excel sheet? I mean, the basic Excel sheet that one would be expected to do when analyzing, especially for a game like Rainbow Six. And they go, oh no, I was hoping that that's what you could help me with. Now, if there are any pro league teams out there that are not requesting basic level documents or basic level trials from their potential staff, like analysts and not really coaches in this instance, but analysts particularly, and they can't give you an Excel sheet that analyzes another team, either for map bans or operator picks or wins, losses, draws, etc., and they're not able to give you some simplified tables or bar graphs or pie graphs, something that an analyst should be specialized in, then that is a red flag that individual is, one, not an analyst yet, and two, they don't know what they're doing. They're not an analyst. And this is what makes me struggle most, is that there are people out there who go, I can become esports stuff. I know how to play the game. I know what I'm doing. Hey, I'll just watch a couple of VODs and I'll know that's not how it works. And this is what I want from our esports community, our Rainbow Six community, to raise the bar and actually start asking people to do the basic level job or have the skills to do the base level job of the job they're applying for. And a lot of people think, oh, an analyst, it's easy, coach, easy. It is not. It is most definitely not. And there is a lot more involved than just being able to tell a player, oh, you missed that rotate, or you didn't utilize your utility here, something like that. That's something a player can do, okay? And they're professionals in their own right. But an analyst role, for example, you need to be able to pull out an Excel sheet that quantifies a lot of numbers with a lot of formulas that allow the players to see probabilities and statistical picks, numbers, etc. I will even bring up a mock one I did of Vitality mid last year. And let's see if this comes up. That's going to be my Twitter instead. But, oh, look at all those GIFs that I have used. But this one that we have here from Vitality. So Vitality analysis here. And I'm happy showing this now that the Vitality roster has shifted around heaps. They're not the team that they once were. And of course, anyone can collect this information. It's all on ESL, CHGG, etc. But this is a basic level analysis on a team over the span of 3 months. And of course, doing any more than 3 months is a little bit too intense. It may be a little bit outdated. I've got things like op bans, maps banned by other teams, map picks, map bans by Vitality, which ones they've won, drawn, lost, and then of course having formulas in there, count ifs, here, here, and here, which come down and make these graphs, which give us a pretty good indication and give the players pretty good indication, and myself, as to which maps they prefer to play, which maps they prefer to ban, etc., etc. So that is base level analysis. It's easy to make a bar graph. I mean, in my opinion, it's easy to make a bar graph. It's easy to make a pie graph. And you should be at a very basic skill level as an analyst, be able to do that. If you can't do that, then I worry that you don't have the skills that it takes to be an analyst. And this is not to discount anyone. Everyone should feel that they can make these roles or they can make these skill levels by learning. This is why we have assistant coaches. This is why we have assistant analysts. This is why we have people constantly going into internships to learn the role upon which they want to be in. But if you don't know how to do it, do not apply for a job where you cannot give the team what they need, or you give them false hope that you have the skills to give them what they need. Otherwise, especially if it's in a pro league team, they're paying you to do something you are not either qualified or know how to do in all of its fullness, or you are taking away a position that would otherwise be better filled from someone who is more qualified than you. And I really want to push this here. People in the Rainbow Six scene, teams, organizations, it is incumbent upon you to sit down and go, we need to raise the bar for the people that we're bringing into our teams, the people that we're bringing into our support staff, our organization, etc. And a lot of these young individuals who are coming in, they could have the skills, but check them. Check them first. They don't need a degree for every single position on a support staff. Social media management, analysis can be done by undertaking IT courses like I did in the military, but they also have them at TAFE. I think they're called colleges around the world. There are abilities to learn these skills in ways that don't require degrees or anything else like that. So check, firstly, that the person upon which you want to bring into your team or your organization has the skills that are necessary for the job, because you are either going to be paying them or flying them around or giving them exposure or free things from sponsors or whatever it is. In some way, shape or form, they are getting a payment from you to do this job. And if they're not qualified, we need to stop that. We need to stop bringing people into the scene that lower the standards of these support staff jobs. And by lowering these standards, it makes people like myself. I have 2 degrees. I worked hard. I was in the military for a little bit. I got all my IT skills from the military. I then went and did a bachelor degree. I then went and did a master's degree. I'm highly psychologically trained and a behavioral specialist. And I feel like only now am I in a position to be a good leader, to be a good psychoanalyst, to be a good analyst IT skills wise. And I am still constantly learning every single week from guys like Shaz, who have revolutionized the way that we look at coaches in the Rainbow Six Siege. Because that is professional. And we should be aiming to have the most professional staff list that we can, the most professional player list that we can. And we need to reach higher as a community to have these standards set at a standard that we now see League of Legends and games like Dota at. You know, you can't get those analyst roles or those coaching roles without having almost a bucket full of either experience or qualifications or both behind you. So, I mean, and I know it sounds like just like a deep rant, but to me, it's worrisome that we're seeing pro league teams around the world advertising for analysts or coaches or whatnot, and then we'll have this individual go into that position. And I wonder, okay, isn't this individual, one, either underage, which means that there's no way that they're qualified, and if they are, well, all to them, I will not judge. But they're either underage, or they have no experience, or they just don't have the skills that are needed or possess any kind of understanding of what is necessary at really, really high levels. And especially coaches. As a coach, and I'm sure there are a bunch of coaches in the pro league scene and non-pro league scene now who could back me up on this, you're not just there to motivate your players. You're not just there to help and assist strategies and counter adaptation and lands and everything like that. You also, outside of the game, are carrying 5 other people's baggage, emotional, psychological, mental baggage on you, because you're there to also help them live their lives to be the best kind of player and person they can be. So you hold a lot of baggage as a coach. And I've learned that very quickly over my short time with Penta, is that I could not imagine the kind of toll that it takes on long-term coaches like Shaz, who have to hold the emotional stress and the psychological meltdowns that players and teams have on a monthly and even weekly basis. So it's really encumbersome. And to ask to put that on someone who's not had a lot of life skill, who's not undertaken a lot of experience going through those kind of psychologically heavy and detrimental situations, I argue that we're not putting the right people in these positions. And that is why I am a massive advocate for getting people who are actually qualified into these positions to do jobs that require qualified people. I want us to think critically. I want us to set the bar higher, because that's what esports requires. If we want to be taken seriously in the Rainbow Six scene, and we want the big boys like Cloud9 to actually continue to invest in our great game, in our esports community, where they bring a lot of exposure and they bring a lot of money, especially to the teams, especially to the tournaments and the online and everything that they've got going for them, sponsors, etc., looking at this game, knowing what's going on, then we need to set the bar on a professional level. No one, and we know some North American teams having their coaches who are still trying to go to school. This, to me, is not a strong utilization of a coach. A coach is someone you should be able to look up to, someone who is there as your leader, someone who you can trust to give your most deepest, darkest secrets and still be able to go out and battle 110% with their motivation right behind you there. And I'm not downplaying age, and this does sound like an ageist sort of rant here, and it's more of like a skill and age sort of rant, because that's what it's becoming right now in the Rainbow Six scene. I heard recently that there was one team considering an analyst who doesn't even have a computer. How does he do his job? How can they be certain that this individual who doesn't even have Excel can do their job the way that an analyst is expected to do their job? I'm sorry, but that's setting the bar so low that you don't even need to have the hardware, let alone the skill set to do your job. And by setting the bar that low, that pulls those of us at a high level down with them. It degrades our positions. It degrades our hard work. I'm sure guys like, and I keep bringing up Shaz because for those of us in support staffing positions, he is the pinnacle of what has made support staff actually mean something. One of many, of course, but one of the key ones in Europe especially. We got guys like in Ents, Sewer, for example. I am very closely aligned with him and a lot of his views and a lot of the way in which he professionally conducts himself. Dizzle from my old region in APAC revolutionized in APAC what it means to be a manager and a coach, and a really professional one that always exudes professionalism, both spoken and practically. because they're professionals. And that's where the bar needs to be set. We need to stop paying and exposing or giving exposure to those people who are not on that level yet. I want every single person who wants to reach for these analyst and coaching roles to go reach out and learn how to do it. There are those of us, I used to tutor on leadership lessons. I used to tutor back when I taught law in Australia. We used to be able to tutor these particular things. I had people ask me in APAC if I could tutor coaching for esports. I mean, and at that point, I wasn't even at my pinnacle. So it's those types of things that you need to be aware that you can't jump from 0 to 100 and think that you're going to get that and you're just going to know what you need to do. That's selfish, and it means that you are not giving esports and Rainbow Six specifically the echelon, the podium that it deserves. And we're not putting the right people in these positions to make our scene as professional as it needs to be seen. Otherwise, we're just looking like a bunch of kids coming in and playing a game and not taking it very seriously. We need to take it more seriously. I can't stress it enough. And I mean, I feel like a lot of people are going to take a lot of my words out of context throughout this video, and they're going to say, oh, but you know, how do they learn and how do they do this? And this is why we have assistant analysts, why we have assistant coaches. It's why there are short courses there for things like Microsoft, Excel, PowerPoint, Word. There are short researching courses. I know during my master's degree and in my third year of my bachelor degree, I undertook separate electives to understand how to do researching skills, both quantitative and qualitative. So it wasn't until, you know, the end of my first degree that I even felt confident working with statistics, working with Excel on a high level. So we need to start holding ourselves accountable in the scene. Teams need to start holding their standards accountable, because the moment we start to drop these standards, the less important the position seen, the less seriously these teams and these positions will be taken. And this degrades those of us who have put in years and years of work to get to those positions, to make those positions seem important, and not just seem, because they are. Because these positions are important. They give teams the support that would otherwise be taking hours and hours and hours out of the team's week. And it gives them the extra time that they need to be able to practice and play and focus purely and solely on the game. So those of you, young, old, it doesn't matter. If you are thinking about going for an analyst, coaching, support staff position, make sure that your resume shows that you know what you're doing or have the capacity to pick it up in a very, very swift fashion with your other skills that you already possess. Otherwise, go learn how to do the job before you apply for it. Okay? This is a simple fact of the world, is that you can't get something without working hard for it. No one wants a train driver who hasn't trained to drive that particular train. It would blow my mind. We don't put pilots in the pilot seat, the captain seat, if they haven't spent years and years practicing how to be a pilot. It's these types of standards that we set in the real world where we need to start treating this as a real world profession, because that's what esports has become. So what I really want from our community is to start having these conversations about setting standards for our players being professional in and out of game, for our support staff and organizations to be bringing people in who know exactly how to do their job and exude professionalism as well as being able to do their job. I'm not perfect. I know damn well I've said some things on social media that I know that I need to be a little bit more careful about, and I'm learning the very public nature of social media, given, you know, where I came from. I'm still learning the publicness and the professionalism and the high exposure that esports gives myself and the players in the organization and everyone else in Rainbow Six. So we're always learning, but I don't want to keep getting messages, and I get a bunch of messages a week, a bunch. I don't want to keep getting messages saying, hey, can you help me with my application? Sure, send through what you've got, let's have a look at it. And they send through a Word document with like 1 page full of dot points of them watching a video and just repeating what happened in the VOD. That is not a coach. That is not an analyst. That is someone who knows how to watch the game and relay what happened. So if this hits you personally and you feel personally attacked, maybe have a little think about why it personally attacks you. Because if a lot of these points pertain to you, then something might be going wrong if you're in a support staff position and you feel like, wow, like this sounds like a lot like me. Have a think. Teams around the world, if you watch this, set your standards higher. There are people out there, I promise you, there are people out there that either know this game and have the qualifications, or who have high-level qualifications and have the capacity to continue to learn this game very, very efficiently. So give people the opportunity to use their skills to benefit you. They don't have to be pro players. They don't have to be the best at the game. They don't have to have a high KD or a high rank. That's not the point of these support staffing positions. It's that they are professionals and highly skilled at what an analyst and a coach requires of them. So we need to raise our standards. We need to stop giving exposure and paying people who have not worked for these positions. And once we start raising the standards for these positions, we can start raising the standards for players and their professionalism, and we can start boosting Rainbow Six into a high-level esports recognized position in the world, and organizations will pay more attention to us because sponsors want someone who is professional and gives a good brand look and all of those other things. Otherwise, we are just going to continue to drag ourselves down by constantly putting down our standards. So hopefully this starts some kind of conversation, gives a bit of discourse about the fact that we need to start setting standards in our community, especially in our Pro League community, because that's where the money is. And if anything that I've said here comes across as me sort of picking out anyone particularly, it isn't. This is a overarching conversation and analysis that I've made about many regions, about many messages I read on a weekly basis for people going for Pro League positions who are not yet skilled. Go out there, go get yourself trained. There are short courses, 3-6 months, that will help you be trained in what is necessary, whether it's psychology, leadership, go do a gap year in the military, whatever it is that you need to get these skills that are necessary for these positions, go and do it. But do not think that by knowing this game that you should just get a free ticket into these support staffing positions, because support staffing is not about playing the game good. It's about doing your role good. And that is very different. If you have any issues with anything I've said here, make sure you message me. There is no need to have a public fit about it. But of course, I'm hoping that I've started some kind of conversation here about the standards that we set in teams, organizations, and Pro League as a whole.